processing times for the I601a and I601 waiver go down or continue to go up? How do you even know about the entire process for that type of waiver? And what do you do to get a case approved? We're going to be talking about all of those things. That's right, my friends, all of those things in this video, so stay tuned. I am Kaushik Ranchod, and I'm an immigration attorney. Been practicing for over 20 years, so you're going to want to stay tuned and listen, because we're going to be talking about why you would need an I601a waiver. You may need an I601a waiver if you've entered without a visa and you're married to a U.S. citizen, or you have a U.S. citizen parent, or you have a lawful permanent resident spouse or lawful permanent resident parent. So in both of those situations, you could file for an I601a waiver, which allows you to get a green card even though you entered without a visa. Now, there is an exception here where the I601a may not work, and that is if you could be convicted of alien smuggling. So alien smuggling could be something as innocent as you bringing in your child while you entered. That could cause you to have another ground of inadmissibility called alien smuggling. So you would need a separate waiver, and you wouldn't be able to file for the I601a based off of the alien smuggling. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, because I wouldn't want you to file that when you're going to have that issue. You also want to consider some other options that might be available to you, such as 245I, such as military parole in place. If you have, for instance, a son or spouse who's in the military, you may be able to not need a waiver, but you could file for those options as well, possibly. I invite you to look at my videos on those specific topics, because we're not going to discuss the details of that here. When filing for I601a, let's look at the steps in the process. So first of all, we have the I-130 petition. That's where we file to demonstrate that you have a lawful bona fide relationship. Now, let's look at the processing times just for that first step, because there's many steps in the process, and let's look at the history of the processing times for the I-130 petition. For spouses, in 2017, the processing time was taking 6.5 months. So this is the I-130 based off of marrying a U.S. citizen. Then 2018, it jumped to 7.6 months. Then in 2019, it jumped another month again to 8.6 months. Then in 2020, it went down a little bit, 8.3 months. 2021, 10.2 months. In 2022, 10.3. So you can see that the processing times alone have been increasing incrementally for the I-130. 2023, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that the processing times for the I-130 will stay about the same, or perhaps go down 1 or 2 months. I don't think it's going to go down significantly. If it does go down, or increase maybe 1 or 2 months. So we have seen incremental increases of about a month at a time. We have in our office noticed that some cases are even getting approved faster than 10 months, and that does vary. So this is what USCIS reports as the median, meaning most of their cases. So once that I-130 gets approved, then what happens? Well, then you just go on to that next step. Yes, what is that next step? So the next step is the I601a. Well, what's the I601a? That's what we talked about in the beginning. That's right. So with the I601a, here we're making the legal argument. We're demonstrating that you should be granted the I601a waiver based off of the fact that the U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident as the qualifying relative would face extreme hardship if they had to go to their home country. So this is not just mere separation. This is extreme hardship. This is really important to note, because USCIS loves to say, well, oh yeah, you're just being separated, that's normal. This extreme hardship is very important. It's not just the emotional pain and suffering that you would face by being separated. It's more than that. At the end of the video, I'm going to talk about a case study that goes into the types of hardships and how we got a case approved, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, let's look at the history. We talked about the history of the I-130 processing times. Stay tuned, because this is where it gets really interesting here with the I-601As and the history of the processing times. So let's look at 2017. 2017, what was USCIS doing? In 2017, processing time was for 4.6 months, 2018, 4.5, 2019 jumps up 4 months to 8.7. Then 2020, COVID hits, jumps up again 11 months. 2021, boom! 2021, this is where it starts getting excessive. 17.1 months in 2022, 31.7 months. Now it's gone to a ridiculously long amount of time. Now the 31.7 months is not even exactly accurate. It's actually a little bit more than that. These times are up until the month of September for the median. I'm gonna get more specific now. Let's look at this past year, what's actually happened, so we can break down and see the trends over this year to help us look and analyze, well, what's gonna happen in 2023, like based off of these trends. USCIS reported that in February it's taking about 31 to 40 months. And if you think about it, this time is so much more than when it started off in 2017, around 4 months. It's gone up by 8 times. In April, now these are all times for the Potomac Center. In April, they went to 33.5 to 43 months. Then in May, it increased again. USCIS is stating it's taking about 34.5 months for 80% of the cases. And get this, right now, in November, they posted it's taking about 38.5 months. It went up a month over last month. So you can see the time is actually increasing. It's not decreasing, which I know is frustrating for many of you because USCIS is arbitrarily increasing the time rather than having it go down. What does this tell us about what USCIS is doing? It looks like USCIS is not prioritizing these cases over other types of cases. And it's troubling to me that USCIS is increasing these processing times rather than decreasing them. Let's look at what's happening here at the Nebraska Service Center. Nebraska Service Center is a little bit faster, so it's at 32 months. So what we're seeing is a trend here. So what I think is gonna happen next year is that I don't see USCIS dramatically decreasing these processing times. I think that they're gonna stay about the same or incrementally increase as they have been this year. I know that USCIS is hiring like crazy. My concern is that they're not prioritizing the adjudication of these waivers. And I know that the American Immigration Lawyers Association has gotten many examples of this from attorneys to discuss this issue with USCIS. We're hoping that it's going to change with the trends that I'm seeing. I'm gonna hope for the best, but also be prepared that these processing times will incrementally increase or stay about the same. So what do you do about this? Well, just get your application filed as soon as possible so you can get yourself in line and get your case approved. Because the longer you wait on the sidelines, the longer, of course, it's gonna take. Let's look at a case study. How did we get a case approved? Our client entered the US over 12 years ago. She married a US citizen. She has no criminal issues. She has 3 children. We're here with the children. We can't use the children as a qualifying relative, but of course we always argue that that is a form of extreme hardship. There's a lot of issues that come up with children, with demonstrating that there needs to be someone present for childcare. The children, of course, would be affected. And we also discussed that as well, if they had to move to the home country, which in this case was Mexico. We also talked about financial hardship. The US citizen spouse doesn't have a regular work schedule. The husband works 6 days a week, and the husband typically leaves in wee hours of the morning and returns in the afternoon. Here we talked about how there would be extreme hardship because the non-US citizen spouse takes care of the children, does the housekeeping and all of that, and the US citizen husband wouldn't be able to do all of that because of course he's working all of these crazy hours. So what we did is we argued that the husband and wife work as a team to take care of the family. Also, the client and the children receive health insurance through the state of California. Of course, they wouldn't be able to get that if they went to Mexico. When they signed up with us, they weren't sure if they had a good case, and then when we just sat down and talked to them and went through all of their specific facts of their unique lives, we were able to glean all of these hardship factors and create a strong case that was approved. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. By watching this video, you are bettering yourself. By bettering yourself, you're bettering your family. And by bettering your family, you're bettering the world. Thank you. Bye for now.